Good evening to all our listeners. My name is Akhil George. I'm a business reporter for Times of India's Bangalore office. We're here for the launch of Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce's latest booklet titled Gateway to Karnataka. BCIC is the apex chamber of industry and commerce representing large and medium industry in the state of Karnataka. It plays an active and crucial role in promoting trade and investment in the state. We have three distinguished panelists for the launch of the booklet today. We have Mr. K.R. Sekhar, partner at Deloitte India and president at BCIC. We also have with us Kamal Bali, president and managing director at Volvo India. We also have Mr. T.R. Parshuraman, who is the president and whole-time director at Toyota Industries Engines India. Mr. Sekhar, maybe you can start and give our listeners a brief idea behind the purpose of the booklet and its contents.
Thank you so much, Akhil, and thanks to the entire Times of India and Economic Times team for supporting Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce for getting this booklet today. It's a great occasion for the Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce. I really thank my team for supporting this venture, and this would not have been possible without the support of the team, both at Economic Times as well Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce. It's a great occasion today. Few minutes back, the booklet was launched by the Honorable Minister for Industries, Mr. Mukesh Nirani. With the dynamic policies of the government of Karnataka, Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce is at the forefront of supporting the industry and the business to make sure that Karnataka is the most attractive destination for the business in India. Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce had a goal of stating Namma Karnataka, the gateway to future India. This particular goal was set up with the great objective of Karnataka catering to the global investors from global investors to Karnataka. We are very sure that with the dynamic policies of the government of Karnataka, we'll be happy to support the government of Karnataka in the best possible manner. Now, what is the role of the chamber in this? The role of chamber is very simple. We will be coordinating, we will be supporting all the investors who comes into Karnataka. We'll be helping them to understand, to support, to implement their projects in Karnataka. Last week, we had a meeting with a Japanese delegation along with my immediate past president, Mr. Parasuraman, and along with my office bearer, senior vice president, Mr. Ravindran, and our vice president, Mr. Shekhar, and various team members with the government of Karnataka on how to support the Japanese companies who are looking for expansion into India, particularly in Karnataka. In our view, the COVID has thrown open multiple opportunities for India to capture the global investment into Karnataka. I am not getting on to why companies are not going for other countries. I am more interested in seeing that India becomes a torchbearer of the global investment and Karnataka leads the way. In that connection, we are poised for a cusp of the growth. Bangalore being the technology capital, Bangalore being the Silicon Valley of India, Bangalore being the place where we have got a lot of young talent is absolutely at the right place to attract the global investment. 20 years back, we never imagined a technology integrated into manufacturing. I am not a manufacturing person like my dear friends Parasu and Kamal Bali. I am a simple chartered accountant. But from an operations perspective, today technology is deeply embedded into manufacturing. Without technology, there is no manufacturing today. And Bangalore being a technology capital is poised for a growth in the manufacturing sector, in my view. And therefore, Karnataka is absolutely ably poised to support the investment growth into India and in Karnataka. Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce has got 18 expert committees, and then supported by the 18 expert committees, we have 3 important what we call activity group like MSME group, ease of doing business group, and women entrepreneurs group. 18 subcommittees plus these 3 groups, these 21 groups are very, very active. And these 21 groups, which is spread across the business, industry, and the functional domain, supports various organizations that is coming into India. Last year, Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce came out with a 4 thought papers, Atmanirbhar and impact analysis, which was presented to the union government, and subsequent to their request, we also present additional subpoints and additional paper on that. We also released a second airport to Bangalore, and with the support from Deloitte, last year Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce released a paper on where Karnataka to be industrialization. All the papers have been received very well at both the central government and the state governments. We also had a privilege of inviting and interacting with the union ministers, both Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman, the finance minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, the commerce minister, and Mr. Nitin Gadkari, the infrastructure minister. This year also we released 3 thought papers. First thought paper on economic policy, what are the present challenges, what is our recommendation. I am pleased to inform you that some of our recommendations were accepted with the Reserve Bank of India, and Reserve Bank of India came out with a clarification to support the industry. We also released a paper on direct tax administration and also reforms on capital gains. Some of our points have been well accepted by the government. We are also coming up with the 2 more research papers, one human capital development in Karnataka and coexistence of industry, education, healthcare for the benefit of the common man. We believe these 2 research reports will be a torchbearer of the BCAC in the industry and the skill development. We are also working with one of the leading private groups to launch the skill development initiative for the benefit of Karnataka. So Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce has taken a lot of steps on this side. Further, Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce has opened office in Tokyo, the first chamber in India who has gone overseas and opened office in Tokyo. We have also gone beyond Bangalore, where we have opened office in Mysore. We are also opening office in Hubli and Dharwad, and we are also planning to open up office in Tamil Nadu and Mumbai in the days to come. So our goals are very, very high. We are also planning to open up, we are also talking with Amsterdam to open up office in Netherlands for a gateway, as Amsterdam is a gateway to Europe. So we have got ambitious plans. Our entire plan is to support the industry and the investment into Karnataka and in India. With this kind of initiatives, with this kind of activities, Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce is positioned in the right way to support the industry, entrepreneurs, and the startups. I would also like to add 2 more important initiatives from a Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce perspective. We have very great startup council, which is mentored by my senior vice president, Mr. L. Ravindran. This year, last year we launched the Startup Awards, where we had more than 200 participations. This year, we have gone pan-India. We have almost more than 400 participations, followed by a startup summit in the month of May. In addition to that, we have also launched CFO Awards this year. March 4th is the last date, so I would request all the participants here to encourage. If you are a CFO, you need to be a participant. If you are not a CFO, support your CFO, request your CFO friends to participate in our CFO Awards. We are also launched Women Leadership Awards, which again, we have received a significant support like CFO Awards. We are going live on those 2 awards somewhere in the month of April. So Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce have got various initiatives to support the industry, entrepreneur, startup promoters, and MSMEs. With the kind of team that we are having, with the kind of professional environment that we are having, and with the kind of initiatives that we are taking up across, BCAC is poised at a great level to support everybody. And finally, all these things would not have been possible without the support of my trusted team and my confidence my former presidents and the management council has got on me. And finally, nothing would have been possible with the support of the blessings of the God and my living God and good times. With these few words, I thank Economic Times and Times of India for supporting BCAC in this great venture. We look forward for more support and partnership with Economic Times and Times of India in the days to come. And I'm very happy that BCAC is poised for a great growth both in India and internationally. Thank you so much for Times of India and Economic Times team. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Maybe now we can maybe introduce Kamal Bali here. Mr. Bali, maybe you have a few words about the booklet.
Yeah, good evening, and thank you for having me on this show. Thank you, BCIC. Thank you, Times of India Group, for having me here. It's indeed a pleasure to be joining on this such a great occasion, where a very interesting booklet has been released just a few minutes back by the Honorable Minister, as Mr. Shekhar pointed out. I think that reflects the spirit and the emotions behind the spirit of Karnataka. And I think it's a very, very good step. It actually lets people outside Karnataka know what actually Karnataka is, why Karnataka is a destination of choice, why Karnataka is a high-performing state. So I'm very happy to be part of this, and thank you very much to BCIC for including me in this as well. So congratulations to all concerned.
Mr. Parashuraman, maybe you can say a few words about the booklet and BCIC in general.
Yeah, very good evening. First of all, I would like to sincerely thank Times of India Group and Economic Times for supporting Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce in launching this wonderful booklet. Of course, as our president and my good friend, Mr. Kamal Bali, said, this is a great milestone in the annals of our Bangalore Chambers to promote Namma Karnataka, the gateway to the future India. So we all know that Karnataka is a great place for investors, be it the climate, the ambience, the kind of aura the government provides, and the kind of ecosystem that is available in the state, and the skill development and the talents and natural resources. I think many investors have flocked to Karnataka. In fact, if you look at last year, almost more than 40-50% of investments that has happened in the country has come to Karnataka at a whopping 62,000 crores of FDIs that have flown just in the first quarter. And in the whole year, I think it has crossed 100,000 crores. So this is a great testimony of confidence that the investors have got. And the government of Karnataka, I would have to compliment the kind of efforts that has happened in the last few years. A lot of drastic steps have happened to significantly promote the investors' confidence. I think the ease of doing business. The first angle is, the promotion of single window channel. Of course, government of Karnataka is working with various corporates. Of course, this year we are expecting a full-fledged single window channel through the Karnataka Udyogi Mitra and Invest Karnataka. I think that is on the cards. And secondly, the affidavit-based clearance that has happened in the state, which means companies can set up businesses within 3 months, and they can take all approvals, be it from the labor department or from the environmental department or from the factories and boilers department, and all other clearances in the 3 years, which means there is an ample time for companies to set up the establishments. And the land bank is today available in plenty. And once the corporates are approved in the single window committee chaired by the senior leaders from the government of Karnataka Industries Department and sometimes by the chief minister, depending on the investment amounts, then they can buy the lands from the farmers directly. This is another significant move. And thanks to the latest manufacturing policy 2025, I think this was a great move. Earlier, we used to get the incentives based on the, the investments, and we used to get the SGST loan, the corporates, depending on the size of investments and the zones. Today, I think it is converted into a percentage-based turnover, depending on the sales turnover, which is very easy to administer. So this is another significant step, which means the companies don't have to return the money, and all you can get is a percentage of your turnover. And also a lot of reforms in the labor angle is coming. For example, flexi labor and fixed term employment for companies so that they can manage the seasonal variations of business. So a lot of regulations have been simplified. I think this activity is another interesting thing. And I have to tell one interesting thing. whatever be the government, if we see from the corporate side, from the chambers, I think last 20 years, whichever government is there in Karnataka, I think the kind of support we got both from the bureaucrats and the leadership, political leadership is fantastic. There is a very good atmosphere to directly approach the senior politicians and also the bureaucrats to address your problems. So that angle also, it has been fantastic. And finally, the God-given climate, the ambience, and the kind of people, the harmony, the culture, the warmth of Karnataka people is something amazing because of the cosmopolitan culture. Therefore, all these factors add to the kind of investments that is coming in the state. And I'm sure with the GDP growing in the state and the country, I think Karnataka will be in the top of the global radar and in the years to come. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. Maybe I can ask all the panelists to jointly unveil the booklet.
Yeah, sure. 1 minute, please. Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, it's coming.
Maybe you can tell the
Paper should buy it. People who are not buying economic times, now I encourage them to buy it because you get a very good book.
excellent. That is excellent advice.
So please buy Economic Times newspaper. It's one of the best newspapers, and you also get a good booklets like this. And it is also available in the website. And we'll also have got a video copy of that, which we will be sending it across to all the people whomsoever wanted it. And with the permission of Economic Times, if possible, we'll post at BCSE website. You can also access from the BCSE website. And I encourage everybody to get in touch with BCSE office because we do a lot of interesting webinars on various subjects. We request every one of you to participate in the knowledge series of webinars. So far, we have conducted more than 115 webinars in the last 5 months with more than 300 hours. So BCSE conducts a lot of webinars. I encourage, I request everybody, I seek participation from everybody to be part of this webinars. That's all I would like to add.
Thanks. That's excellent. Maybe we can get a little bit more deeper into the booklet now. I'm sure our listeners will be very curious to know why BCIC is opening an office in Tokyo, which is, I think, an excellent idea, but I'm sure they would love to know more about that.
Let me request Parasuraman to detail because he is the Sutradhar for that. I am only an implementing guy. Let me request Parasuraman to talk about that.
Thanks, Shekhar. This initiative from Bangalore Chambers, so we all thought about how to garner big investments, especially many Japanese companies have been setting up in the recent times. In fact, if you look at the JETRO latest survey that has been published, they have made analysis of several countries, I think more than 100 countries globally, on their current perspective and what kind of investments they would like to come back to the same country if they are given the second chance. I'm very happy to say this was shared by Mr. Suzuki, the Director General of JETRO recently with Bangalore Chambers. 70% of the companies wanted to reinvest in India, and Bangalore has been a great destination because of the climatic conditions, the ecosystem, the natural talents pool, and the big support from the government of Karnataka. And companies have been very, very successful. And therefore, we thought from Bangalore Chambers, especially with the coming of the Tumkur Japanese Park, I think this is coming in a big way. So many companies would love to set up businesses in Karnataka. Therefore, from Bangalore Chambers, we thought that we will act as the single window channel, bridging the companies and the government for a common purpose in terms of giving the information, getting the approvals, helping them in establishing their ecosystem, the talent pool. So as a matter of fact, at Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, our president launched the incubation center in the presence of Honorable Industry Minister Shri Murugesh Nirani and Mr. Ashwath Narayan ji recently, and wherein we can incubate in our own premises at a very, very absurdly low cost of 5,000 rupees per month, which is a very, very low level, so that companies can get the advantage. Secondly, we are very actively working with the Japanese communities. Already, we had the first diaspora of Indian community of business in Japan a couple of months back, where it was very well attended by a lot of business leaders from Japan and Indian foreign ambassador in Japan, Mr. Verma, and the consulate general of Japan in Bangalore, Akiko Sugita-san, and very senior leaders. So we are also planning for the economic summit in the next 2-3 months, together with the business communities. And we are also trying to set up a 25 roadmap to coincide with India-Japan 100 years of relationship. So all these activities are planned towards bringing more business communities to Karnataka, which is the gateway to the future India. And the Japanese people are extremely happy on the climate and the ecosystem. Therefore, we would love to take it. And our team will be shortly visiting the Tokyo office together with the team from the government and the Honorable Minister. And we will be kickstarting this activity in a big way in the next 2-3 months. Hopefully, we should be able to do that with all the big support and guidance from the government of Karnataka and all the stakeholders. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Maybe we can now get into into how devastating the pandemic has been to MSMEs. So what recommendation does BCIC have for state and central governments to provide short-term relief?
Sure. So can I take this?
Sure, please.
I'll take this, but I would also like to inform here, we have Kamal Bali, the managing director of Volvo. I would like to inform here before I go on to this question, Volvo has got a phenomenal innovation awards. And it's just not meant for Volvo, it's meant for anybody who's innovative thinkers, and they can participate in the Volvo Innovation Awards. I had a privilege of participating in the panel discussion of Volvo. It is one of the best organized innovative award sessions. I am sure there are a lot of young minds who are listening to this. Not that me, Kamal and Parasu have become old, we are still young, but our mind may not be young like you guys. So therefore, I encourage every young minds who are listening to this, participate in the Volvo Innovation Summit because it's a phenomenal one. I would like to encourage that. When it comes to MSME, Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce made a detailed presentation on various aspects of MSME. Last year, we presented 4 or 5 important ideas. Number 1, loans to MSME, tax deferral for MSMEs. 3, credit guarantee scheme for MSMEs. 4, very important, MSMEs have got a challenge on the technology. They need to upgrade on the technology. Therefore, we requested to consider a separate technology fund. 5, there is only one development institution for MSME called SIDBI. We wanted to focus more development institution for MSMEs. Out of 5, I'm happy to say that 3 recommendations have been accepted by the government. It is on implementation. This year, you would have seen in the budget, there's an export credit guarantee enhanced by 500 crore. MSME got a benefit of almost around 3,000 crore on various schemes. I'm not saying it is all coming out of BCAC recommendations, but BCAC as one of the premier chambers have recommended multiple schemes to MSME. We also discussed with the government of Karnataka and government of India on creating a developmental financial institution exclusively for MSMEs, because 4 states in India constitute the largest chunk of MSMEs. Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, and Tamil Nadu. 5th is Andhra Pradesh. We requested to create exclusive developmental financial institutions for MSMEs for each of the region on a public-private partnership model. The government said they are debating it across. We'll be very soon. We like to know what is the status of that. More important, this year what happened in MSMEs, again we are going with 3 recommendations. One with the state government, with the help of Parasuraman, where we recommended state government to reduce the consent for operations fees. That was a big challenge for MSMEs. Thanks to our recommendation, state government moderated the entire fees for consent for operations. This is a big boon for MSMEs. The original proposal of the government was almost 300%. Thanks to BCS and Mr. Parasuraman's intervention personally, the consent for operations fees came down significantly. We are also going with another recommendation for MSMEs. Though the government has agreed for MSMEs to defer the loan, Unfortunately, the deferment of loan, it hits the cyber rating. So we are telling the government when the deferment of loan is happened, they should not hit the credit rating, they should get the more loan. Third important area where we are asking for government support is to MSMEs to plow back the money what they have collected by way of taxes till the economy booms up. And we are also requesting government to sponsor technology fund to upgrade the MSMEs technology. So these are all the various areas that we are supporting MSMEs. We have an exclusive MSME cell managed by one of the top-notch investment banker of the former investment banker. So anybody who would like to seek a support from BCA on MSME, please feel free to get in touch with us.
With all this global turmoil happening right now, and FDI being pulled out, a lot of uncertainty, in this kind of environment, what would your suggestion, what would BCIC's suggestion be to keep that investment flow in Karnataka strong?
I would like Mr. Kamal Bali to respond because he is a MD of Volvo and he has got a lot of FDI is close to his heart. So probably I would request Kamal Bali to respond.
Sure. I will come in there. Yeah, I will come in.
That's perfect, sir. Don't worry. You can speak.
Yeah, I'll come in there. I think that's an interesting question. Akhil, I must let you know that while there is a turmoil globally in general, I think India is at a cusp of a very major socio-economic transformation, which we can see. And I think with the rebalancing of global value chains, which is going through currently in a very, very big way, where it is expected that almost $4 trillion of manufacturing is going to be rebalanced over the next 4 to 5 years. India stands a very, very good chance. So I think I'm not unduly worried about the global turmoil. I think it's going to be in favor of countries like India, which have alternative options to offer to investors who are looking to invest in, and places like Karnataka, Bangalore, which have great propositions to offer. And as my colleagues have already talked about, Shekhar and Parshuram, I think that the kind of, I won't want to repeat it, the kind of value proposition which Karnataka and Bangalore brings to the fore, I think it's phenomenal. And if you look at Karnataka has evolved over the years, and from being just a technology or a silicon capital of India, I mean, it has actually transformed into a huge manufacturing infrastructure. Many people just, I mean, the IT services part many times overshadows the debate on other sectors of economy when it comes to Karnataka. We have a booming automotive sector. We have a booming aerospace, defense, retail, pharma, textiles. So it's a pretty much wholesome manufacturing infrastructure which Karnataka has today. So Karnataka offers a huge amount of opportunities, and the key thing is we have to reimagine the future and provide those inputs to the world, to the investors about the future. And therefore, Karnataka is in the best place because the future is all about sustainability. The future is all about collaborations. The future is all about alternate fuels. The future is about working together in teams. And future is about connectivity, technology. And Karnataka, there's no other place better than Karnataka which offers this. And I think Karnataka can benchmark and should benchmark, this is my suggestion, against countries like Vietnam and others. We should directly benchmark ourselves, whether it is cost of doing business, speed of doing business, ease of doing business. And I think Karnataka will stand very tall. And I'm very, very certain about that. That's the first piece. The second piece is that the agility which is there in the system today, and this is something very, very interesting. I mean, we are becoming an agile state, and I think things are happening faster. And I think if we can digitalize more and more, as Parsuram pointed out, if we can digitalize, if we can have a single window system, I think it can actually invite a lot of more investors who don't have to run from pillar to post. So they can simply file one application and all approvals get linked, just like you have the national single window scheme, which has just been introduced, where 32 departments and 14 states have got linked. Something on similar lines, if Karnataka can do that, which I'm sure it's already, a lot of it is already there. But I think if it can be made end to end, so I think that would be great. So I'm, Akhil, to a very pointed question of yours, the FDI or the challenges which the world is facing. Obviously, those challenges are unfortunate. I completely agree with you. But I don't think India as a country needs to unduly worry about that. I mean, it's a problem which the world faces. It's a bad problem to have. We don't want people dying because of pandemic or because of wars. I mean, that's a bad situation. But when it comes to economics or commerce, I think India and Karnataka is not in any bad situation. We are, on the contrary, on a very, very good wicket. And I think if we continue on at the same pace, we will get more and more investment. Let me tell you about, I'll take a minute more to talk about
Please.
Swedish in India. We have about close to 200 Swedish companies in India, out of which 40 companies have headquarters in Karnataka, which is a very, very large number. And many more are wanting to come and change their base to Karnataka. So I think that's a very, very good and positive. And these companies are in various sectors of economy, whether it is IT, manufacturing, pharma, companies like AstraZeneca and all of those. So I think the ecosystem is great. There is a positive mood to favoring India and Karnataka. So I'm not worried. In fact, on the contrary, I'm bullish.
Akhil, whatever Kamalji said, I would like to compliment with one more point. I think today the India has got a huge demographic dividend compared to the other countries because of the aging population, be it Japan or United States or Europe, many parts of the world. So this is going to be a very significant factor. And secondly, the geopolitical angle, I think if you know that China is also losing out in many fronts, and China is probably moving from manufacturing to service also because of the aging population. So this is a great, great opportunity for India. And currently we are at 60% service sector. So manufacturing will be the peak in the next decade. And not only market India because of the captive market, but factory India for the rest of the world. Because of, as Mr. Kamalji said, $5 to $6 trillion are going to get distributed for the developing countries, and India stands a fantastic, huge chance. Absolutely. And the geopolitical angle is something very favorable to India. So I would see that this is a very positive factor for India, given the current geopolitical situation. Thank you.
And I think there is no better time for manufacturing than it is today for India, because India, which has remained at about almost 15 to 16% of GDP when it comes to manufacturing, has a chance to really leapfrog to 20-25%. And that's if you look at all large major countries like Korea, Germany,
China,
which has anchored these countries for several decades. And India can be no different. So I think there's a huge scope for manufacturing. And I think the wave is towards India, and India has to put its best foot forward, like we already are doing. But maybe we can get a little more agile, and we can digitalize our processes much more. These are the two only takeaways for me: more agility, more digitalization, so that leads to transparency, and that works better for everyone.
And skill development.
Akhil, I completely second what Parasuraman and Kamal Bali said. And Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce is planning for going for roadshows in various countries to promote Karnataka as an attractive investment destination. We are working out a plan. Very shortly, we'll be finalizing our plan. I just want to share to our viewers.
In fact, on a skill initiative also, we are working on the Skill Academy of Excellence. So we are working out with several organizations, and one of the leading companies we are working out. So we'll also be launching that, the current leadership of Mr. Shekhar.
You mentioned it.
Yeah. I think what Mr. Kamal Bali said about Karnataka being a lot more than just IT. I think a lot of our viewers, I think a lot of people have that in their head. Right? Karnataka means IT. What else does it mean? But like you said, I think it means a lot more. What would you say? What do we need to do to boost manufacturing? Like, especially, how do you provide the kind of skills for manufacturing in Karnataka to really boost it?
Yeah, I'll just add, I'll start, then probably I'll request Parasu and Kamal to supplement it. Karnataka is a great place for manufacturing. As you started saying, Karnataka being a technology and Silicon Valley of India, technology will become a base for manufacturing in the days to come. Karnataka has got a huge talent of people which can be absolutely captured. Not only that, Karnataka, outside Bangalore, there's a large scope for development. And there's a recent MOA has been signed with Mangalore Port for one LNG terminal. And there's a large scope for outside Bangalore to develop Karnataka as a significant manufacturing base. Second, which I mentioned it earlier, and Parasuraman also covered in his top point, Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce is coming out with a skill development academy exclusively to promote various aspects of skill in construction, infra industry, and manufacturing industry. Third important aspect, which is important from a business standpoint of view, is implementation of national education policy to work with the industry, and Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce is working with various academic institutions on that side. So taking into account various initiatives, not only by BCSE, but also by the government of Karnataka to boost Karnataka into manufacturing, and technology being the hard bet for manufacturing in the days to come, Karnataka will be a state for manufacturing days to come. We are very sure and very confident about it. That's what I would like to say. That I would request Parasu and Kamal, who are the experience in manufacturing, to talk about it.
I will just take a minute,
Sure,
Kamalji. I think what our Shekhar said, I think augmenting the same point, I think Karnataka, if you look at, we have the biggest machine tool base in the country. One of the oldest machine tool makers, starting from HMT. We set up bases, and that has been a very, very strong foundation for the state. And secondly, we are one of the largest technology clusters in the country, and the IT hub of the world. Fourth largest technology cluster, I would say, is centered around Bangalore. It's a great ecosystem. And 40% of India's exports happening again on the IT services happening from Karnataka. Therefore, this is a huge opportunity for manufacturing to grow in leaps and bounds. Because big companies have set up their supply chain, be it a Volvo, Toyota, TVS, I think umpteen number of players. In fact, Karnataka has got 7 OEMs and 50 auto companies. They have set up the base in Karnataka, and this number is going to grow bigger and bigger. Therefore, there is a huge supply chain growth, competitiveness in manufacturing, competitiveness in logistics, competitiveness in skill development. All these things are going to augment the growth of manufacturing in Karnataka. And if you look at the GDP of manufacturing in Karnataka, which is almost 25% of the Karnataka's GDP, which is one of the largest in the country. If you look at Indian manufacturing GDP, we are at around 14-15% of the country's GDP. If you look at the Western countries, advanced countries, they are at 25%. If you look at China or United States. Therefore, when the GDP grows to that number, I think there's a huge opportunity again for Karnataka to get a huge chunk of that growth opportunity. With the growth of Indian manufacturing also, Karnataka will get a huge advantage. And the infrastructure building is happening in a big way. The Chennai-Bangalore corridor, the Bangalore-Hyderabad corridor, and the Bangalore-Mumbai corridor is very much on the anvil. And huge spend is happening on the infrastructure. So this will lead to a lot of plug-and-play parks, ready-to-use technical parks and SEZ. This will boost infrastructure and employment generation, skill building activities in the state. Thank you.
I'm sure we also have an advantage when it comes to wages, right? Wages in traditional manufacturing hubs in the world are all increasing very quick. So we should have that advantage as well.
Yeah, the only one, I completely agree with both Shekhar and Parashuram. Just wanted to add one point that when we are looking at manufacturing today, we should look at futuristic products. I mean, there is enough capacity, and one thing which we all have to understand, there is enough capacity for existing sectors. For instance, if you're talking of automotive industry, unless you go into the new age, emerging technologies like EV or alternate non-fossil fuel, there is no point getting into the existing sectors. So I think that's very important for our listeners. They should look at futuristic. They should look at energy efficiency. And as government, as Parsuram rightly said, logistics cost has been one of the biggest banes for India when it comes to manufacturing. And logistics cost has been very high. It's almost 14% of GDP compared to an average 8% globally. So which gives us a disadvantage. I'm sure with the kind of spends which have been committed in the budget, national budget, union budget, I think this will make a huge difference. If we can build that infrastructure, it will be a big boost to manufacturing. The second thing which we have noticed is the PLI scheme. The union government's PLI scheme is focusing on futuristic sectors. Very, very clearly, incentives are only on ADAS systems, on battery technologies, on hydrogen fuel cells, on clean energy, all of those, and for ESDM manufacturing. So either the sectors which are not existent in India or futuristic sectors. So that's the key. And that is the right approach and that's the right way, because India has to become the factory of future. And I'm sure with all these initiatives by the union government, coupled with some of the advantages, several advantages which Karnataka has, I think we have a great story going.
Sir, only last thing I wanted to add, sir, the sustainable technologies, the green technologies are coming in a big way in Karnataka. I think the cars, the hybridization, the electrification, the biofuel options, I think such initiatives are happening in the state. And this will also bring a lot of new opportunities for the state. Therefore, this is another great thing that is happening. And the cluster program, I think the Karnataka government has identified 9 cluster districts to reap economies of scale based on the China model. For example, Koppal for toys and ICD for Mysore, then, the sanitary wares and several new areas where it will be a huge manufacturing happening, and this will create a lot of employment opportunities and infrastructure building. So these economies of scale will drive Karnataka. Not only today, 90% of Karnataka, the economy comes from Bangalore. Therefore, there's a huge focus on the government to spread it to tier 2 and tier 3. So this kind of cluster programs will bring in more manufacturing through this kind of activities. And today, as rightly said by Mr. Kamal Bali, the new technologies, the machine learning, artificial intelligence, the big data analytics, quantum mechanics, I think 3D printing, all these things will form an integrated manufacturing approach. And Karnataka has got the biggest IT digitalization in the country. And also globally, it is in the global radar. So all these things will augment the growth of manufacturing to the next level with the big support from the government. Thank you.
Right. Since we have both the top people from Toyota and Volvo, I think we have to touch on the whole electrification and what would happen, let's say, in the next few years if the government comes out with a rule that, by 2030, 35, all cars have to become electric. In such a situation, would we have like a huge advantage, Karnataka especially, when it comes to boosting manufacturing?
No, absolutely. I think what you're saying is actually happening already.
Right.
There are. You're absolutely spot on. There are already commitments from companies. I can talk about my company, for instance. I mean, Volvo Group has said that by 2030, at least 50% of our trucks would be working on non-fossil fuels, which is basically mainly hydrogen fuel cells and battery.
Right.
Okay, so already we have taken goals, and by 2040, 100% we will be. And I'm talking about heavy commercial vehicles,
Right.
which are more difficult to go into alternate fuels because you need
Right.
large battery packs. So obviously,
Right.
technologies. So I think that you are absolutely spot on in that way. That and then when it comes to two-wheelers, I believe two-wheelers will I think 80% of two-wheelers by 2030 would be electric to my mind. I can imagine, I do not know what Parsuram has in mind on cars. I think I believe 20 to 25% of cars would be sold 2030 onwards, should be around 20% should be electric. Of course, it's a progressive journey. It's
Right.
not happen tomorrow because there is a huge infrastructure shift and you have to get your energy grid also in place. So I think there are a number of things happening simultaneously, but I think the direction is very clear. It's a clear move towards non-fossil fuels. It's a clear move towards electric. It's a clear move towards future of mobility, which is not just electric and fossil fuel. It is many more things. I mean, that's a different topic we can talk
Right, right.
of mobility. So it is much beyond electric vehicles. It's like connectivity. It's doing aggregation of goods. Just to give you a small example, today a truck carries more. On an average, a truck globally carries 75% air.
Right.
It carries only 25% cargo. Cargo is so that 75% is the level of inefficiency. So
Right.
that's a great opportunity. If somebody can monetize through technology that opportunity, if my truck
Right.
can technically become 100%, so I can save 75% of the cost. That 75% can get monetized. A complete new revenue model and business stream can open up. So those are the new opportunities which are opening up in the future of mobility thanks to digitalization. Yeah.
Sir, only one point I would like to add. I think I fully endorse my good friend Kamal Bali's point. I think, sir, while electrification is the ultimate landing point, and definitely, there is a lot of improvements happening on the IC engines as well.
Yeah.
Because globally, the stage by stage, step by step approach is very important. Today, we have the huge challenges of supply chain. But what we believe also is definitely electrification is the landing point, final landing point. But hybridization will be a great synergy towards this because we believe motor generator and the ECU, a lot of common elements in the journey. And as rightly said by Mr. Bali, I think the charging infrastructure in this country, definitely there's a huge support happening from the government of India. So that will also grow. And also companies have also invested on millions and millions of assets on the IC engines. Therefore, while electrification will happen progressively in this country, but IC engines efficiency, so we'll produce lesser emissions and companies will focus on more green. I think that kind of technologies will also grow parallelly. And I fully agree with Mr. Bali. By 2020, 30, 35, I think 20% of India, I think we also expect that electrification will happen. But a lot of innovations will happen on the IC technology also in the intermediary time. Therefore, while we maintain innovation in the existing technology, focusing on the new technologies, again, disposal of battery, some kind of other challenges are also there. But we believe that renewable energy focus will happen in this country because still we are 70% to 80% fossil dependent. Therefore, huge impetus on the renewable energy, the source of energy itself, we should focus on green hydrogen is going to change the complexion of this nation. Therefore, this is a very, very positive step for India.
I just want to add only one point to what Kamal and Parsu said. While we are looking at 2030 as a great one, but what I'm looking at is that this sort of electrification, battery, power-driven, emission-free will encourage more startups to come in India because it's all boils down to innovation and technology. So I'm extremely buoyant about this particular policy of the government and which will encourage more startups and more technology innovative companies. And that is what I go back to what Kamal Bali said and what we have been talking about technology. India as a technology was considered as a service-oriented company. Today, India as a technology will emerge as a product development company, innovative companies, and that's what it is going to take.
Sir, another focus.
And last point, sorry, Percy.
Yeah.
Please continue.
One more important aspect is that globally, there is always a challenge on the semiconductor and aerospace.
Yeah.
And India is poised at exactly at a very good position to attract investments in semiconductor manufacturing.
Right.
And we already having a discussions with various companies, as Kamal said, it's happening already. And 10 years back, people never looked at India as a place for semiconductor manufacturing.
Fab shops.
Today, people are looking at semiconductor not a secondary level, but a primary level, which is a very, very important step. And we understand that a lot of companies are looking at India. So what I'm looking at is that the technology base what we have in India and in Karnataka will be a hotbed for future manufacturing, future technology, and become a product-oriented, R&D-oriented company rather than a mere service provider.
Right.
Thank you, Shekhar. I'll also just add the last point.
Please.
Government of Karnataka now is actually working on the semiconductor policy. In fact, myself, Mr. Shekhar, Mr. Bali, we had a lot of discussions with the government of Karnataka recently. And the industry minister and the top management, top leadership, including the CM, is very, very positive on bringing an attractive policy for semiconductors. So I'm sure that this will really take the state to the next level. And aerospace and defense park, which is again on the anvil, which is going to be a huge thing that is happening in the next decade. So Karnataka has got that ecosystem. And as Shekhar said, defense, aerospace, and semiconductor will complement to manufacturing growth in Karnataka with a huge support from the government.
Right.
And
So
just to,
please continue.
add one very small 10 seconds point to Parsuram talked about on the IC engines. So one point I want to make, IC engines are not going to die. There are several non-fossil fuels which will work on existing or slightly modified IC engines. So fuels like at Volvo, we have tried 7 different fuels, which can work very, very effectively on existing IC engines with minor modifications, which are clean fuels and which can be used. So there is going to be a bit of everything. It's not going to be just one size fit all. So there is going to be demand for everything. The future is about technology, about innovation, about finding the right solution for the markets.
Right. I think we've touched on quite a few industries. I feel like we also need to maybe talk a little bit about the textiles as well. I personally have quite a few friends actually who started startups, targeting this green green manufacturing of textiles. More sustainable cloth. It's also an industry that employs a lot of women. Any thoughts?
Kamal Bali has to log off. He has got another important call at 6:30.
No problem.
Maybe request your permission to.
Maybe you'd like to give a closing comment?
No, I just want to thank you all. Thank you for having me, Akhil, BCIC,
No issues.
Shekhar, and Parsuram, and everybody else. It's been a pleasure being with you guys.
Thanks, Kamal. It's our pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe this can be the last topic. Does BCIC have any thoughts on that?
See, this textile is another important sector you touched upon. If you look at Karnataka, I think export garments, it is very, very huge, maybe one of the largest in the country. I think a lot of exports happening on this sector, 20% happening from Karnataka. And also the cotton production and advanced technologies for these yarns are in a big way. So the textile parks are also in the anvil of the government. And in fact, they are looking at creating more textile parks in the state. I think this will create a huge employment opportunity. While there will be a lot of focus on the technology, at the same time, this will create more employment opportunities. And a lot of textile manufacturing companies, machinery manufacturing companies, I think like, Kirloskar Toyota Textile Machinery, I think they have set up the bases here, and they are also exporting to a lot of Southeast Asian countries and many parts of the world. Therefore, this is also a very big opportunity for the state, and the government is focusing on the setting up this big textile parks and plug and play parks with adequate infrastructure. And this will also create a huge employment opportunities in the years to come.
Only one point I can supplement in Parasuraman. The government has recognized that India lost that in textile to Bangladesh and other countries in garment sector. We lost our preeminent position to Bangladesh in the garment sector. That's one of the largest employment creation. And government has recognized that, and the government is coming out with the policy on textile parks. And the recent denoting of special economic zone is one of the pointers to the direction of increasing textile parks outside special economic zone. So I'm sure, and textile industry is one of the largest employment creator. The government is coming out with the policy. I'm sure the government will correct the situation.
Hopefully we can beat Bangladesh and Vietnam.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've covered, we've gotten, given our viewers a holistic view of the Karnataka industry. Thanks a lot to all our speakers for taking part in this. And we would encourage our viewers to please go online and find the booklet. We'll post a link for the booklet on the Facebook page. We'd encourage everyone to download the BCIC booklet and read it. Thanks again to both Parshuraman sir and Shekhar sir for taking part.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot,
Thank you so much.
Akhil and Amit. Thank
Thanks a
you
lot.
so much.
Thanks a lot, Akhil. And
Pleasure
entire
meeting you all.